G'day and welcome back to the Record Straight podcast. What an Aussie welcome this morning. Back here with Anthony and Christina from Cartel Australia.
G'day, mate.
Hello.
I know we're going with the Aussie theme today. Hi. Benny Greg's here from BG Community. I am so excited about today's episode because we are asking you at home or wherever you're listening, are you actually an artist? And what makes you actually an artist? And we're going to talk about six key points today about how you know or how you can kind of drive your artist project. Yeah. Chris, I'm going to ask you to go over the 6 topics that we're going to be covering today, and then we'll dive into our creative process.
Absolutely. So firstly, it's not a one-size-fits-all method. We will go through like the ways that we think that you can build, but also it's not going to work for everyone. So just take this as you will. First is the creative process. The second is to prioritize networking, learning industry best practice, your time management, your budgeting, your release planning, and the self-evaluation and expectations. And
if you want any further information on self-evaluation and expectations, our last podcast that we just had was managing artist expectation and egos. Remember, today is just advice. It's for the artist that wants to take music as a career. If you're doing this for fun and it's nothing, you'll probably get some stuff from this episode anyway. Yeah. But if you do want to take your artistry as a career, these episodes are designed for you as an emerging artist in that space. Now, Anth, talk us through the are you actually an artist and what defines you as an artist starting off with?
So, look, I think, again, going in the context of an artist that wants to create a career, an artist is someone that is able to communicate their art to an audience that's likely to care and create financial sustainability from it.
There we go. Is that you listening right now? If it's not, keep on listening. No, I'm kidding. Keep on listening regardless. Either way, talk us through what it means to be an artist in that space then, knowing that is you.
Yeah. I think I'll preface firstly as well that, it doesn't mean that you're not an artist if you're just creating music and having it, sit on your hard drive like I do. But again, just to reiterate, in the context of creating sustainability, what was your question?
The artist today is someone that wants to make commerce out of their art form. Everyone creates art. Everyone does it in their own space, time, place, company. However, today the artist is someone that is wanting to take this as a career and turn it into commerce here. So going back into it, You've obviously touched base on the artist and how do you know if you're that artist at the present moment. If you're not there yet, we're going to talk about some ways that you can implement these steps into your artistry to be able to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, I think if you, like, the simple fact is if you're willing to do the things that you enjoy a little less to extend the things that you enjoy the most, you're technically that type of artist.
Sweet. So talk us through then, Chris, creative process. Great. So I just want to really quick. I just want to touch on the main factor that separates, I think, those who are creating this as a career. So this is the job description of an artist. Those who are creating it as a career in sustainability is that they're willing to put actions in every aspect of their project. That's what I think. I mean, it's not just the creative. It's not just one particular thing. You are creating a step-by-step, actionable, tangible plan to grow in every facet of your project. Yeah. I think for the creative process, Anth might be able to speak to it a little better because it's all about developing connections within mix mastering engineers, producers, creating the right type of creative, and then I'll jump into the communication.
Creative is essentially the nuts and bolts of the whole thing.
Yeah.
If we don't have the creative, which is ultimately the music or the performance of that music, we have nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the goal. Generally, the way that creative process breaks down, and again, it differs between what kind of artist you are, is the right demo, record, produce, mix, mastering process. I think for a lot of artists, as I said in the last episode, they are very in-depth within this. Because this is for 99% of the artists where they find the most enjoyment. in that creative process, creating something that makes them feel something. Generally the creative process can come with some costs attached to it, depending on the level, the strengths and weaknesses of the artist who is creating. Whether that be in the mixing process, whether that be having to hire out a studio to record, whether that being the engineering process. I know something for myself when I was an artist that I used to create music, mix as I go, and realized that the mixing that I did was absolutely fucking terrible. And ended up having to outsource engineering through Panorama Mixing and Mastering, and through that process actually learned to upskill myself.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then the other process on the other side is the way that you communicate it, or the way that you are kind of getting that creative out there. And that might be touring, consistent learning, talking to media, talking to industry, building your team around you, developing your audiences on social media, developing the best ways to kind of learn industry practice, things like that.
And then once you've got that creative and you've established the creative abilities and relationships and connections, and you've got a physical, tangible product that you're working with, I think, again, it's starting to become more and more of a common practice, but networking and industry practice is very, very important. Let's split this between the two. I think I want to go to industry practice with Anthony and networking with Chris. Industry practice, and talk us through what is it that artists can be doing to be practicing their craft in industry?
Again, I think it really depends on the type of artist you want to be. So if your strength is in singing and songwriting, for example, and you have no real interest in the live side of things, then at the end of the day, what you're looking for to generate financial sustainability isn't going to be on the touring end. So everything that we're doing in terms of actions within the industry is going to build into sustainability within the singing and songwriting format. So it may be understanding the process of sync and licensing, understanding APRA, AMCOS, and PPCA and what they mean. Understanding the difference between publishing houses and sync agencies. And all of that kind of stuff, and then learning how to connect with those people over a longer period of time over your catalog. If the strength of an artist project is in the live sphere and they have a very, very innate ability to perform, their focuses should be less on the sync and licensing side and more on developing the processes of understanding how to play a show, front and back of house, lighting, all of the things that come with playing a show. And then the connection piece within industry is developing within promoters, within booking agents, understanding what a booking agent's role is, understanding the difference between a corporate show, what that will do for your project, which we've touched on in previous episodes, and hard tickets and what that means. And then
to like elevate that, if you don't know where to find the answers to these, or to best to find these best kept secrets, you go to networking, right? And there's so many networking opportunities in Melbourne,
including the BG community.
Including the BG community. I know, shout out to the BG that are here to, not even just from that, it's reaching out to people on LinkedIn, Instagram.
Absolutely.
Talk us through why network is so important in this sphere.
It's important because you are able to learn from people who are either your peers or can become mentors, or people who have had experience in the industry of experience that maybe you haven't had yet or you want to have. It is important to learn. Networking is such a valuable tool to not only get yourself out there and actually build an audience potentially that you wouldn't necessarily have, and build interest in your project. It also allows you to learn everything. I mean, there's nothing that networking won't be able to do to benefit your project.
80% of my job opportunities and my career has come through networking.
And who and also it teaches you, okay, well, maybe I'm not actually interested in sync and licensing. Maybe I'm not actually interested in touring. Maybe it might be that I am more drawn to being in artist development. I mean, you're networking through One Love and through understanding labels and agents, and the industry side allowed for Anth to go, actually, you know what? Maybe artistry isn't for me. I want to develop other artists. That's where my passion lies.
And
Absolutely.
asking the right questions when
Totally.
you go networking. Don't be afraid. People that are in networking environments are in networking environments to ask questions. They're not just there to build surface level relationships. They are there to build genuine connections. And the way that you build genuine connections is by asking questions and really getting to understand the person you are talking to.
And
Yeah.
putting
And what they're
yourself
doing.
out there.
100%. That's the hardest thing.
It is. And again, I've spoken about this previously, but you're never going to, if you don't ask for something, you're never going to get it. No one's going to come and hand you something magically and go, this is going to fix all of your problems. Cartel started because I was banging down One Love's door because I wanted to be a part of their sphere. And so it's not just about physical networking and going to networking nights. It's also about finding the artists, the industry people that you want to be around or that you want to represent, that want to represent you or anything like that. And reaching out to them via email is really important. And I think that also ties into industry best practice. So understanding the best way to send an email or not sending it at 2 a.m. in the morning or, things that are going to assist your artist career in general.
I think it's important to state as well that for industry, it's their job to receive emails from artists. So for any artists that are,
Don't feel like you're heckling.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. Like it's our job to give you feedback and to get back to you. There's a stigma within the industry, within artists about industry that industry can generally come back as a bit standoffish. When it comes to artists trying to build their network, which they can be,
Yeah.
and it's a fair stigma, but I do think there's kind of merit in saying that we're trying to develop this over a longer period. What industry is essentially looking for is your development over a longer period. They don't care about your next single. They care about you within the context of making money off you in
Totally.
later down the track.
And you know what? These industry personalities, when you think you might be bothering them, what they do is bread and butter. They know how to do it. By you asking the questions and them giving you an answer is no skin off their nose most of the time.
Yeah.
And I think I learned that this lesson recently as we were renovating our space. We did a bit of DIY. I was too ashamed to ask a builder about a topic of choice. It cost us lots of money. But then I learned that, hey, and he said to me, he goes, Benny, it's like you taking a photo. If someone asks you to take a photo, it's easy for you to respond. You have the knowledge. I'm a builder. I have the knowledge. It's easy for me to tell you what you can and can't do. So ask the bloody question in the first place.
Absolutely.
And people are so like,
Shout out to Ben Finlayson.
We love Ben. I love talking to artists. So for artists out there, I'm looking dead into the camera. If anybody needs any advice or wants to talk or anything like that, we're always around.
Yeah, exactly
Speak.
right. Look at that handsome devil looking straight into the camera over there.
Oh my goodness, the blue steel. Just really quick,
yeah,
can
yeah,
I
yeah.
top one
100%.
thing? A lot of artists also get very freaked out about like the emails, just for example, and they don't know like the time and the frequency to follow up. I've heard a lot of artists ask me, well, I just didn't want to and then I didn't.
What's the follow-up process?
The follow-up, yes. So send your email when there's something to say. So send it when you have a release, when you have a show, when you know and understand the goals of the project and what you want to be working towards within a 6 to 12 month period. And this is for industry only. This is not talking to media. 6 to 12 month period. Then if you have something else to say that might come in a week when you release your new song and you get editorial playlisting and you're going to tour now and all of those things, it might come in 2 months. It might come when you release your next single. The follow-up process needs to come when you have something to say. Please don't follow up every day because the industry are just going to kind of go, well, this is too much. Yeah. They won't get back to you right away. I think there's a huge like kind of thing. They are there to help industry, but a lot of the time you won't get an email back unless they feel as though they can either help you or they can make money off you.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important distinction for artists because a lot of people don't email or will email once and go, oh, I didn't get any replies back. When you follow up again with something to say, if they're interested, they will reply.
I think it's important as well within the email structure to make it relevant to who you're emailing it to. If we're emailing a booking agent, we've got to email them stuff that is relevant to the live scene.
Yeah.
The shows
Live
that you're playing,
performances.
the tickets that you're selling, your experience within the live scene. If you're sending that same information to a record label, well, they're not going to care.
I find that with sponsorship proposals or partnerships with any creative project that I work on, if the same pitch goes out to every single person, none of them reply back. As soon as I personalize something, give them a call, give them a DM, be like, hey, I love your stuff. You know what I loved? This thing that I saw on the internet. Hey, this is what I've got to say. This is what I'm doing. Do you want to be a part of it? That's very important. Now, coming to sending emails, definitely there's lots of emails to be sent in a day, and time management is extremely important to be able to send those emails. Time management, we're going to go through a quick tip each to how to best manage your time. Subjectively, we all have the same amount of, well, we theoretically, we all have the same time. We have the same amount of time in the day each. However, it's up to us in how we choose to use it. Yeah. Personally, for me, I find the things that are the most benefit to my personal health and well-being. I prioritize ways to make that with the most maximum input to my personal and professional well-being with the least amount of effort to be able to sustain my energy and my consistency. And then I go my second most important priority, which is my brand and my creative. And then I sit there and go, how can I time manage the best way using the Pomodoro method of 10 minutes on, 15 minutes off. So 10 minutes on, 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off, or it might be an hour on, 10 minutes off. Scheduling, doing a detailed schedule report on what my day is going to look like. There's so many ways you can time manage. What are the downfalls though, and what are you finding artists are running into consistently about their time and their time delegation?
I think it's lack of accountability. I think my one big tip is if we're going to, this whole episode is the job description of an artist. I think my whole thing is that if we're setting out a week, have specific time within the week that you're working on your creative or you're working on some form of development for your creative.
If you really want this, you'll make the time to do it.
Absolutely. It's like, if you work a job and you're a shift worker, if you don't show up, you're going to get fired.
Correct.
It's really no different. How we manage the time when we're in that time is a little bit different. I speak to a lot of artists and they're like, I'm on writer's block, so I'm not going to write anything. I need to take a break. And that's okay. And I'm not saying to, continue plowing through, but having time that you're accountable to is so important. And that's going to come back in the self-evaluation and expectations process as well.
And go. No,
go ahead.
I was going to say accountability also comes down to not just your artist project. It comes to the multifaceted of who you are as a person and how you're showing up to all elements of your life. I love this, the quote, I forget who it's by now. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And I probably couldn't agree more in many cases, because I think the way that I show up in the morning to my meditation, to my cold plunge, to my sauna, then to work, then to my emails, I find that those small little tasks that seem so irrelevant, if I don't prioritize and take action and take accountability for those projects, the rest of the projects, those tasks, the rest of the projects and my creative endeavors lack, because I'm not able to keep the fundamental discipline in the first place.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think my tip, and I think it sits before what you guys have spoken about, is actually identifying what you want to achieve. Yeah. A lot of artists sit there in that time that they've allocated for themselves and go, okay, what do I do now? Like they don't have, I think the first part is actually identifying what you want to achieve within the time that you have given yourself.
Yeah, amazing.
It's a lot of artists sit there and go, well, I don't know how to do this. Maybe that time is research, or maybe that time is reaching out to people. Maybe it's creating content. Identify what you want to achieve, then stay accountable to that time.
You never know it all. And I think research, extremely important. Extremely important to dedicate that time every week to be consuming content that's going to help better your knowledge. Definitely it's important to consume both types of content, fun, engaging, that fills your cup, and also that helps you digest and understand, and it's informative. Again, there's so many ways that you can do that and know what you want to spend, how you want to allocate that time, whether it's writing down every single thing you have to do, labeling them from 1 through to 30, 40, even 5, whatever it might be. Mine's always 30 in a day. And then taking those top priorities, getting those top priorities done first thing in the morning. We've been doing this in the office. We get to the office 6:30, 7 a.m. From 7 till 9, it's always the first and the most difficult, challenging task that needs to be done, that needs to be done, but you're not going to do it. Get it done first.
Yep.
Then block the rest of your day. Do something creative here. Do some writing here. Do some recording here.
Some emails. Yep.
Just block it and tackle the hard, challenging things straight away. Take it from all the times.
I think one thing that I've really learned from you recently, and it's thank God for being in the office, is time blocking. And blocking out the days and really having structure. I think when it comes to creativity and artists, they create when they're feeling inspired.
Yeah.
But I think, and I do this myself as an artist, it's really important to stick to that structure.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to come.
You're self-employed.
Yeah.
And
you don't know what's going to come. You may write something that is total arse that you'll never use, or you might write something that's amazing.
And I think in terms of the creative process, I think we were speaking about it, and it might have been Jerry Seinfeld that does it, even if he doesn't feel like he is funny or he wants to write or whatever. Doesn't he set out like 15 minutes and he has to write jokes in that time or something?
It's just building the muscle in your brain to help you be consistent and show up.
Yeah.
And there's so much psychology about that, because I know that some people, like my mate Lucas and Aiden, actually, both of my best mates,
We love them.
they aren't productive in the morning.
Yeah.
But between 5 and 11 p.m., they are crazy, and they know that about themselves and their clock, and they prioritize that. Always the hardest thing gets done at the start of that time block.
Yeah.
But it's important to understand that and trial and error and make mistakes and fuck it up and then do it again, to really understand your time.
I just think being to that, whatever the structure looks like, being accountable to that structure is so important, and having the intention.
And identifying
it was in my head, intention. Like even when you're having lunch, the 20 minutes you have lunch in, intentionally have lunch. I'm a sucker for not doing this now.
I'm so bad at this.
Take your lunch out, go sit outside, have your bloody lunch, spend 20 minutes, and enjoy your food, because tomorrow you might not wake up in the morning. No, but like,
you're right.
Fact,
no,
enjoy the food, enjoy the home
Fun
cooking,
fact.
enjoy the food that you're having right now, enjoy the conversations you're having in this moment. Spend the 20 minutes, then get back into your project.
Yeah,
have
present.
intention in everything that you do, because if you don't intentionally have lunch properly, how are you going to intentionally send an email or have a proper conversation with someone? It might not be your priority. But it's very important to have that self-discipline. Anyway, moving on.
Absolutely.
Speaking of self-discipline, no, this is a good working into the next one. Self-discipline within your budgeting and understanding what you do and don't have to pay for is
online shopping.
very important. No, not in general budgeting. I mean, it's a good tip. But
Semi Uniqlo. I cannot go in there without buying anything.
But like within your artist project, identifying what you do need to spend and what you don't need to spend, and having a really strict budget for your ads, for your producers, for your mix mastering engineers, and fitting that within your ability to make money and funnel it back into the project.
Yeah, I actually think the budgeting side of it, like this part of it, is going to be really easy. It's simple. Every release should have a budget attached to it.
Correct. Know what you can spend.
What do you need to spend? So where do you need to outsource? Do you need to go record at a studio? Do you need to outsource mixing and mastering? Do you need, when it comes to the communication side, do you need budget around ads or media placement or whatever it is? Understand that before going into it, because then you can plan, and it goes back to, again, the time management. How do we structure it? Moving forward from there. But if you have that information, I think some really key things around budget that I just want to touch on quickly that aren't necessarily budgeting for releases, but I think it's really important to artists to have a really good understanding of finances around, understand where your money is coming from and how it's coming from you. So getting a really solid understanding between the different types of royalties, distribution royalties, master recording, APRA, AMCOS, PPCA, public performance, etc. Where
the return on investment is going to be.
Yeah. How those payments are actually given, and when they're given, every quarter, every month, whatever it may be. Some distributions give, payout every 6 months. Understand the ticket sale ratio and where you can play shows to ensure that you're generating some form of income that you can then
funnel back in,
and please get an ABN and an accountant.
Do it properly. Ask your accountant. The amount of times in business that I work with as a young entrepreneur, the amount of times I've learnt about the importance of having an accountant around you is extremely important. Don't try and do your finances as an independent yourself, because you'll end up paying more tax and getting yourself into a rut.
I think it's really important as well to have an artist-specific bank account. You are not paying, like if this is a business.
As a sole trader, very important.
You're a sole trader, everything should be operating through that bank account. And obviously at the start of a project, you're putting money in and you're investing in yourself, and that's great. But the ultimate goal is to make sure that the money that you make from the project is being reinvested back into the project at the beginning.
Bootstrapping. Reinvest the money back into your project.
To a point where you can start to begin to take profit.
And I think also to identifying the ways that you can make income. There are corporate shows that a lot of artists will fit into that you can go and you can play, and it's probably not going to do a lot for your actual artist project, like your what you want to get out there. But playing that show on a Sunday afternoon will help to get you paid, so you can pay your producer or pay your mix mastering engineer.
And you get to choose what you put out on your social media. People go,
Totally.
it's not for my brand.
That's
But
okay.
at the same
You don't have to
time,
share
I know so many musicians that are incredible emerging singer-songwriters that are doing amazing stuff, are still doing corporates, but they just don't promote it because the corporate wants them for their look and their personality and their brand to elevate their brand. Just don't promote that you're there. That's
Absolutely.
okay.
It comes down to strengths and weaknesses. Again, if you're a performer, play those corporate gigs, don't promote it. If you're a producer, make beats or ghost produce for other artists.
If you're a vocalist, sing top line songs. We had a friend who, I don't think she does it anymore, but she used to make her entire income to funnel back into her project for writing for other people on top lines of dance songs. It wasn't part of her project. She was not a dance act.
You've got to do what you got to do. I'm a director at a financial institution that helps fund the more independent projects that I work in and plus my company income. I don't promote that, but I do it because I want the extra cash to be able to reinvest and bootstrap in the organization.
Totally.
A tangible thing for anyone listening, the sole trader, have your own bank account. As a sole trader, I highly recommend splitting your bank account into the little bank account tree, Benny's bank account tree. Where the money will always come into your sole trader account, and it's very important that you distinguish and you code and know what income is coming into that account. I like to go a personal account and a sole trader account. People say personal sole trader, it's the same thing. Don't treat it like the same thing, because as your artist project grows, I turned into a company, and because I had this structure in place already, turning into a company was a breeze because my sole trader account changed to a company. It was always the same bank account. It was always the same project. So have an ABN, a bank account attached to it, and a personal bank account. Have a savings account attached to both of those project accounts.
We're pretty similar.
We
And
usually
then-
do the same.
Don't be afraid to have a project-based account in there too. The money comes in, your personal account has car, bills, and then it might have holiday expenses. Your business account has business savings, taxes, royalties, GST, whatever
All
you
of
might be
those.
registered for at the time. When the money comes into your account, try as much as you can as an independent establishing artist to keep reinvesting the money that account's making and bootstrapping it into the same account. Then when the time comes to start paying yourself a wage, if you feel like you want to take money and spend it personally, send that across to your personal account and then enjoy the fact that that's your personal money to use how you want to do it.
We operate exactly the same, and we operate under a partnership, and it's basically exactly the same thing.
You've both got personal bank accounts or your joint bank account, then you've got your company bank account. It is so important to do, because then when I switched to being a proprietary limited and hit the threshold, that account, nothing changed in my business. I then started paying myself a wage from the company account. Nothing changed. And it's very important that artists, you get to know that and learn financial literacy and just understand the basics of finance, because it will change your life. It really will.
It just goes back to everything that we've been saying over the last couple of episodes. It's like, get out of the studio for a second and let's understand these processes, because this is, if you don't understand your finances, where they're coming from, how you're getting them, or what you're going to do, or how you're going to allocate them once you do get them,
And how to maximize getting them in the first place.
you actually don't have a project.
And feel free to drop us a line and say accountant, and we can recommend plenty of accountants that understand this process as well. That's not a sponsored comment. Moving on to the release plan. So many facets of the release plan. Who wants to take this one? It's definitely out of my books.
I think
go half an hour.
What are we talking about here to understand?
I think we go with the release plan. Let's start as an overall structure that the release plan is should be focused, like rinsed and repeated across multiple releases.
And refined.
And refined. Yeah, absolutely. Generally, the way that we split it up is that a release plan will begin at a minimum 4 weeks prior to the release of the record.
And that's label standard.
Why is that? Why is that label standard?
Yeah. So distribution. So when you're uploading to a distributor, DSPs, digital streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, etc. Some of those require a minimum of 2 weeks to be ingested into the back end, so it can actually be uploaded. And secondary to that, the extra time, so the following 2 weeks, is you being ingested into the editorial team to go into consideration for playlisting editorially.
Great.
So that's the minimum amount of time we would suggest uploading. You can do it before. This is, again, moving forward from here. It's not a one size fits all method. What we tell artists all the time is to take this framework and fit it into your time schedule. So if it doesn't work in 4 weeks, do it in 6, do it in 8, do it in 52. It doesn't matter. Just do, as long as these kind of actions get done at a bare minimum, you're kind of doing it within a label standard kind of release.
Just a quick note, it's 4 weeks pre-release.
Yeah.
So that wasn't, it's usually a single release. It lasts anywhere between 6 and 8 weeks, maybe 10, maybe 12.
Yeah.
But just pre-release, it needs to be a minimum of 4.
Yeah.
And then what goes into the planning of that release plan? Because we spoke about last episode, the whole my song's out now Instagram post. And I think a release plan is so much more than just the hard social boring content.
Yeah. It kind of depends what you're looking for as well in terms of what you're trying to achieve.
Understand your audience, understand where it is you want the release to go.
Your intention.
Generally, the way that we would break it down is 4 weeks, 5 weeks pre-release. So the week before you go into distribution, that is what we call generally our setup week. So in that week, you'd have your press release written, which is the write-up about the song and yourself. Spotify
To send to media.
Yeah. Spotify for artists, submission pitch that's got to fit within 500 characters. That you'll submit to Spotify once it goes live in the back end of their platform. Generally, the way that we do that is we have a larger press release that will go to all media and a condensed version of that. If anyone needs feedback, please feel free to send it through.
You gather your press images, your content, your assets, your artwork, all of those things will get done in the setup week before you submit into distribution.
Yeah.
This also is a time where we urge artists to identify what they want to achieve within the release. So the goals, and start putting together their content schedule for their social media.
Yeah. Yeah. If that stuff isn't done, push your release date back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No point.
Yep.
And the simple fact of the matter is you don't want to be rushed. You don't want to burn out at the end of the process.
And then I guess that takes us to self-evaluation and expectations that you're putting on not just yourself, but the other people around you that may be assisting with you. We obviously had an episode last month that was managing expectations and artists' egos, but let's just go more towards a self-evaluation of the process. How does an artist understand oneself abilities and self-evaluate the situation?
Yeah, I think what we mean by this is more so like looking at the structure of, for example, how you release. How did it go? Did we have time within that release cycle? So 2 weeks before a release, generally what we would say to an artist is that's your repurpose week. Are we getting the media? Are we getting responses? And if we're not getting those responses, how are we repurposing or how are we doubling down? Mm-hmm. So the self-evaluation is simply at the end of that process or at the end of any process, taking a step back. What worked? What didn't? What did I enjoy? What did I not enjoy? What could I do better?
Yeah.
Streamline for the next, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I agree.
Simple.
Yeah, I don't like just picking what your strengths were, what your weaknesses were within the entire process. So the creative process as well. What were my strengths and weaknesses? What could I have done better? Yeah. How did I manage my networking? Did I go to an extra event this month, or did I follow an industry best practice, or did I do enough research? Did I allow myself enough time? Did I budget correctly? Should I have found more opportunities for
go through all the steps and understand where you went right and where you have the improvement. I don't think you ever go wrong. I think it's all a learning curve.
And I think it goes back again to the expectation thing around, what we were speaking about last month. Artists should never put the expectation of their entire project into one release, because that release is subjective to the audiences that are listening.
Or one performance.
Yeah. We should put our emphasis on the development of the project into the process of how we communicate it to that audience, because that's measurable, it's tangible, and it's changeable.
This is going to take time.
Yeah.
Everyone listening, it's going to hopefully it doesn't. And we hope that you blow up in your next release and that you get all of the things that you want. But usually it will take a long period of time with a lot of catalog of releases, with a lot of hard work and opportunities and performances and support acts. It will take a lot of your dedication. And so when you are evaluating yourself, ensure that you're not being too critical and don't ever see anything as a failure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, most often, if not all artists that are listening to this podcast have had the experience of releasing a song, going, this is the one, and then going, oh, that didn't work, but I don't know what to change and I don't know what to fix. Always go back to the process of how we communicated it.
Yeah.
I like using the phrase, if you expect nothing, you experience everything. And by that, when you expect nothing out of anything or anyone, you actually experience the process. Mm-hmm. You experience the people that are around you, experience the song, the hardships, the connections. You're living there in the moment, which makes your artist process and experience 10, 15, 100 times better because you are having fun and you're learning from the ups and downs. And you've got no intentions. You've got intentions, but you've got no expectations.
Yeah.
Whether it blows up or not, you've done the work. You've learnt a valuable lesson. You're 10 steps forward. And that's really important to acknowledge and realize that that's happening. And you need to recognize that in your project.
And blowing up shouldn't be the goal.
No.
Like blowing up, define blowing up. Like no one even knows what that
creating music that translate is your goal. It's creating a community, making people feel something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Virality is like one in bloody a million at this point.
Virality is a joke. If we can touch on virality for a second, I can name about 8 campaigns that we've either been a part of or we know of intimately that are quote unquote viral, that have had a 6-month lead-in plan, hundreds of thousands of dollars put into it, focus, and a really strategic plan that have blown up overnight, right? I'm not going to mention...
And a huge team around them.
Yeah. So when artists at a local level are looking at artists that have gone viral, generally what they're seeing is something that is not manufactured, but something that has been worked towards over a longer period of time. Yeah. Right?
Often it is manufactured by labels as well.
And not that that's a bad thing, because that's still marketing.
That's the next level. That's still important.
Yeah, that's a different level. But where a lot of artists go wrong is they look at that and go, okay, I need to copy this content exactly, or I need to copy this process exactly. And they don't necessarily have the resources that those artists that have gone viral have. Virality is not real. Following that, virality is not translatable. So what I mean by that is that the guys that do have those resources, that have spent that money, that have got that structure and kind of workload behind them, what they have is the ability to harness that and turn it into repeat listenership, because that's the expectation of what they were trying to achieve. For an artist that goes viral overnight, and it does happen, very, very rarely, their issue then becomes backing up that virality and doing it again and doing it again. Which comes
back to understanding the catalog, the back catalog, understanding the backlog of content that you also have to be able to then be on that bandwagon. I use that at school all the time, but you want to be on that grind to be able to then be consistent from that point.
I think it's really important because we are in an age at the moment where anything can just go bang and become huge. And I think it's really important to understand that although that virality is great on TikTok, for example, how much of that is actually meaningfully converting to a catalog and someone listening to a catalog to a point where they want to buy a ticket to a show.
Yeah.
Right? Because quite often it isn't. It's 1 million views, but it's also then not 1 million streams and it's not 1 million ticket sales.
Relying on the merit of the process. Always go back to your process, everyone. Your creative and your communication processes are where your most valuable asset lies.
Yeah.
100%. Oh, so much valuable information. Just to recap on today's the job description. Are you actually an artist? Understanding creative processes, very important, which Chris just mentioned then. Prioritizing network and industry due diligence and experience and best practice. Understanding your time management. And there are so many ways to do that. I think I'm going to have to start making content about budgeting and time management on my Instagram because I have so much knowledge here. And that's purely from 11 years of making mistakes. release plan, budget, and of course self-evaluation and expectations. Any other further comments you'd like to make before we close up the episode? I'm overwhelmed of I got pretty passionate halfway through that. So
Yeah,
it was a really great one.
Yeah.
This is a good episode.
I just think, again, I think a lot of the content that we're speaking within these podcasts is quite dense. So for all artists who are listening, don't get too overwhelmed. This is a long process. Slow build is longevity in the game, like I said last month. And take it slow. There are people out there that can help.
And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out at cartel.australia, BG Community, Benny Greggs.
100%.
Reach out.
And we want to hear about your thoughts. We want to hear if you like the content, if you don't like the content, you think there's something you don't agree with, make sure you comment in all the platforms that you can, like, subscribe. We are here to shed light on these conversations and communicate these important, relevant issues in the communities too. So we're here to support and listen.
100%.
Oh,
thank you so much.
Until next time, we'll see you soon.
See you guys.
See ya.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.